To everyone who has followed this series from part 1, I appreciate you. If you've been here from the beginning, you already understand this isn't just motivation. It's a wake-up call. And if this is your first time watching, go back and watch part 1 and part 2. Don't skip the foundation. This final message will hit differently when you understand the full journey. This series was built step by step. Don't miss the steps. The deepest truth about life's brevity isn't that you'll die. It's that you're dying right now. Not in the future, now. Death isn't an event that will happen. It's a process that's happening. Every moment you exist, you're closer to not existing. Every breath brings you nearer to your last. Every heartbeat counts down to the final one. This isn't morbid. It's reality. And seeing reality clearly is the beginning of wisdom, of living well, of using time wisely. Because when you truly understand that you're dying, that death isn't distant, but present. That time isn't infinite, but depleting. You stop wasting it. Most people live in denial of this truth. They know intellectually that they'll die, but they don't live like it. They act like death is something that happens to other people. Something far away, something they'll deal with later. They're dying and they don't know it. Or they know it and they ignore it. And so they waste their lives preparing for a future that might not come. The Stoics had a practice for this. They called it memento mori. Remember death. Remember you will die. Not occasionally, daily, not abstractly, specifically. They meditated on their mortality. They contemplated their corpses. They imagined their funerals. Not because they were depressed, because they wanted to be awake. Because you can't live fully while denying death. You can't use time wisely while pretending it's infinite. You can't prioritize well while acting like everything matters equally. Death is the context that makes life meaningful. Limitation is what creates value. Scarcity is what makes something precious. If you had infinite time, nothing would be urgent. If you lived forever, nothing would be important. If you never died, you'd never have to choose. Because you could do everything. Experience everything. Become everything. Eventually. Someday. In the infinite time stretching ahead. But you don't have infinite time. You have maybe 4,000 weeks. Maybe less. Maybe much less. And that limitation is what makes your choices matter. What makes your time valuable? What makes your life significant? You can't do everything. So you must choose. You can't experience everything. So you must prioritize. You can't be everything. So you must decide. Death isn't the enemy of meaning. It's the creator of it. Without death, there's no urgency. Without limitation, there's no need to choose. Without scarcity, there's no value. Death gives life meaning by making time finite. By making choices consequential, by making every moment precious, because there are only so many of them. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He meditated on death constantly, not just his own death, but the death of everyone and everything. He contemplated the impermanence of all things, the fact that empires fall, that civilizations end, that even the memory of great men eventually fades, that everything passes, that nothing lasts. This gave him perspective. Made him humble, kept him focused on what mattered. When he remembered that he would die, that his empire would fall, that everything he built would eventually crumble, he stopped worrying about petty things, stopped caring about trivial matters, stopped wasting time on things that wouldn't matter from the perspective of death. He asked himself constantly, does this matter? Will this matter in 100 years? Will anyone remember this? Will I care about this on my deathbed? And if the answer was no, he let it go. He didn't waste his limited time on unlimited trivialities. He focused on what would matter from the perspective of a life fully lived and peacefully ended. You should ask the same questions. Does this matter? The argument you're having, the grudge you're holding, the offense you're nursing, the status you're chasing, the possession you're accumulating, the approval you're seeking. Does it matter? Will it matter in a year? In 10 years? On your deathbed? If not, let it go. Stop wasting your limited time on unlimited nonsense. Stop spending your precious life on things that won't matter when life ends. Stop trading your irreplaceable days for replaceable things. This is the wisdom of mortality, the perspective of death, the clarity that comes from remembering you're temporary. When you know you'll die, you know what matters. When you accept you're finite, you know what deserves your infinite care. When you recognize time is limited, you know how to spend it. But this wisdom has to be practiced. It's not enough to know you'll die. You have to remember it, daily, consciously, deliberately, because the default is to forget, to slip back into thinking you have forever, to start acting like time is infinite, to begin wasting it again. The practice is simple. Every morning remind yourself that you will die, that this might be your last day, that the people you love might die, that this might be your last conversation with them. Not to create anxiety, to create awareness, to remember what's true, to stay awake to reality. When you remember you'll die, you live differently. You prioritize differently. You choose differently. You speak differently. You love differently. You work differently. You spend your time differently. Not because you've changed who you are, because you've remembered what's true. Seneca practiced this by imagining his death. He would visualize it. Think about how it might happen, what he might feel, what he might regret, what he'd wish he'd done differently. And then he'd live in a way that would minimize those regrets. That would ensure he'd done what mattered. That would allow him to die peacefully when death came. He didn't wait for his deathbed to think about what he'd regret. He thought about it daily while he was healthy, while he still had time, while he could still change, and this daily practice of imagining his death made him live better, made him waste less time, made him cherish every moment more. You can do the same. Imagine your deathbed. Imagine looking back on your life. What will you regret? What will you wish you'd done? What will you wish you'd said? What will you wish you'd spent more time on? What will you wish you'd spent less time on? Write it down. Be specific. Don't be vague. Don't say I'd regret not living fully. Say specifically what that means. What would living fully look like? What would you have done? Created? Experienced? Contributed? Become? Then compare that to how you're actually living. Compare what you'd regret not doing to what you're actually doing. Compare what you'd wish you'd spent time on to what you're spending time on. Is there alignment or a gap? Are you living in a way that will minimize regret or create it? If there's a gap, close it. Not tomorrow, today. Start living in a way that your future self will be proud of, that your deathbed self will be at peace with. That won't require you to say, I wish I'd, because those are the saddest words. I wish I'd. They're the words of wasted time, of postponed dreams, of unlived lives, of people who knew what mattered but didn't do it, who recognized what was important but prioritized what wasn't, who understood life was short but lived like it was long. Don't let those be your words. Don't die wishing you'd lived differently. Live differently now. While you can. While there's time. While it still matters. This requires courage. Because living according to what matters means saying no to what doesn't. Means disappointing people. Means making difficult choices. Means facing fear. Means accepting uncertainty. Means risking failure. Means being uncomfortable. Most people choose comfort over courage. Choose approval over authenticity. Choose security over significance. And they waste their lives in comfort and approval and security that mean nothing when they die, that provide no consolation on their deathbed, that create regret rather than peace. Epictetus taught that you must distinguish between what's in your control and what's not, and most of what people worry about isn't in their control. Other people's opinions, external outcomes, the future, the past. Most of what creates anxiety is beyond your control, but your choices are in your control. Your actions, your values, your character, these are yours. And when you focus on what's yours, when you stop worrying about what isn't, you become free. Free to choose, free to act, free to live according to what matters instead of what others expect. This freedom is essential for using your short life well, because if you're living according to others' expectations, you're wasting your life on their priorities. If you're choosing based on others' approval, you're spending your time earning validation instead of living meaningfully. If you're afraid of others' judgments, you're letting fear steal your limited time. Your life is yours, short and precious and temporary. Don't waste it living someone else's version of it. Don't spend your limited days earning approval from people whose approval doesn't matter. Don't sacrifice your finite time to others' infinite expectations. Choose for yourself. Live for yourself, not selfishly, but authentically, according to your values, your priorities, your vision of a life well lived, because this is your life. And when it ends, you're the one who has to answer for how you spent it. Not to others. To yourself. When you're lying there counting your final breaths. No one else's opinion will matter. Only yours. Only whether you lived according to your values. Only whether you spent your time on what mattered to you. Only whether you can look back without regret. Most people can't. Most people die with regret. With wishes. With dreams deferred. With words unsaid. With life unlived. Not because they didn't have time. Because they wasted the time they had on things that didn't matter. Bronnie Ware worked in palliative care. She spent years with dying people, listening to their regrets, their wishes, their reflections on their lives, and she found patterns, common regrets that most people shared. The top regret was this: I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Most people at the end realized they'd lived according to others' expectations. They'd made choices to please others, to meet others' standards, to earn others' approval. And they'd wasted their lives doing it. They'd worked jobs they hated because that's what was expected. They'd stayed in relationships that drained them because that's what they should do. They'd lived in places they didn't want to be because that's where they ended up. They'd followed paths they didn't choose because that's what seemed responsible. And at the end, they realized it was all a waste. That living for others' approval meant not living for themselves. That meeting others' expectations meant not meeting their own. That being responsible to others' standards meant being irresponsible to their own lives. The second most common regret: I wish I hadn't worked so hard. People realized they'd spent most of their lives working, earning money, building careers, pursuing success, and they'd missed everything else. They'd missed their children growing up. They'd missed time with their partners. They'd missed experiences. They'd missed life, all in service of work that didn't matter at the end. The third: I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. People realized they'd held back. They'd kept quiet. They'd not said what needed to be said. They'd protected themselves from vulnerability and ended up with relationships that weren't real, with connections that weren't deep, with love that wasn't fully expressed. The fourth: I wish I'd stayed in touch with my friends. People realized that relationships they'd valued had faded, that people they'd loved had drifted away, that they'd been too busy, too distracted, too focused on other things. And now those people were gone. And it was too late. The fifth: I wish I'd let myself be happier. People realized that happiness was a choice, that they could have chosen differently, that they'd let fear and worry and anxiety steal their joy, that they'd postponed happiness until conditions were perfect. And conditions never were. These regrets are universal. They're what most people feel at the end. And they're all avoidable. Not by having more time, by using the time you have differently, by choosing differently, by living according to what actually matters instead of what seems urgent. You can avoid these regrets, but only if you act now, only if you change now, only if you start living according to what will matter at the end instead of what seems important now. Live true to yourself, not to others' expectations. Make choices that align with your values. Work that matters to you. Live where you want to live. Do what you want to do. Not perfectly, not recklessly, but authentically. According to your truth, not others' expectations. Don't work so hard that you miss life. Work is important, but it's not everything. It's not more important than the people you love, than experiences that transform you, than presence, than actually living. Find balance, not perfect balance, but conscious balance. Don't let work consume everything. Express your feelings. Tell people you love them. Say what needs to be said. Have difficult conversations. Be vulnerable. Risk rejection. Risk hurt, because the alternative is living with words unsaid, with love unexpressed, with relationships that aren't real because you weren't real in them. Stay connected. Prioritize relationships. Make time for people who matter. Don't let friendships fade because you're busy. Don't let distance create disconnection. Reach out. Stay in touch. Make the effort, because relationships are what make life rich, and you'll regret losing them more than you'll regret missing any meeting. Let yourself be happy, now. Not when conditions are perfect, not when you've achieved everything, not when all problems are solved, now. With things imperfect, with problems unsolved, with conditions less than ideal. Choose happiness despite imperfection. Because if you wait for perfect, you'll never be happy. And you'll waste your life postponing joy. These aren't suggestions. These are lessons from people who ran out of time, who got to the end and looked back with regret, who could see clearly what mattered because they no longer had it, who understood too late how they should have lived. Don't learn these lessons too late. Learn them now, while you still have time, while you can still change, while you can still live differently. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. He meant that death could come at any moment. And knowing that should change everything. Should change how you speak, how you act, how you prioritize, how you live. If you could die today, what would you do differently? What would you say? Who would you call? What would you prioritize? What would you let go of? Live that way. Not because you'll definitely die today, because you might. And living like you might means you won't regret it if you do. This is the ultimate wisdom of mortality. The final lesson of life's brevity. Not that you should be afraid, not that you should be anxious, not that you should be paralyzed, but that you should be awake, alert, intentional, deliberate, alive. Living like you're dying doesn't mean being reckless. It means being intentional. It means making conscious choices about how you spend your limited time. It means prioritizing what matters. It means not wasting time on what doesn't. It means being present. It means expressing love. It means taking risks. It means living fully, because life is short. Shorter than you think. Shorter than you're living like it is. And the tragedy isn't that it's short. The tragedy is wasting it. The tragedy is getting to the end and realizing you never really lived. That you existed but weren't alive. That you had time but didn't use it. That you had a life but didn't live it. Don't let that be your tragedy. Don't waste your short life. Don't postpone living. Don't save your best for later. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't let fear steal your time. Don't let others' expectations determine your choices. Don't let work consume everything. Don't let words go unsaid. Don't let relationships fade. Don't postpone happiness. Live now. Choose now. Love now. Create now. Experience now. Be now. This moment is your life. Short and precious and happening right now. Don't miss it. The Stoics understood this completely. They built an entire philosophy around living well in the face of death, around using time wisely knowing it's limited, around finding meaning in mortality, around living fully knowing you'll die. And their wisdom still works. 2,000 years later, the truth hasn't changed. Life is still short. Death still comes. Time is still limited. And the way to live well is still the same. Be present. Be intentional. Be authentic. Be courageous. Be loving. Be alive. You have one life. Short and precious and temporary. You don't know how much time you have. Maybe decades. Maybe years. Maybe days. All you know is that it's limited. That it's depleting. That every moment that passes is a moment you'll never get back. Use it well. Spend it wisely. Invest it carefully. Not in what seems urgent. In what actually matters. Not in what others expect. In what you value. Not in comfort and safety and approval. In meaning and growth and authenticity. Because at the end, none of the comfortable things will matter. None of the safe choices will console you. None of the approval you earned will satisfy you. All that will matter is whether you lived. Whether you loved. Whether you created. Whether you experienced. Whether you became. Whether you were alive. That's the measure of a life well lived. Not length, quality, not how many years. How fully you lived them. Not whether you avoided death. Whether you embraced life. Not whether you played it safe. Whether you played at all. Your time is short. Use it. Your life is temporary. Live it. Your days are numbered. Make them count. Not someday. Not when you're ready. Not when conditions are perfect. Now. Today. This moment. Because this moment is all you have. This moment is your life. Short and precious and happening right now. Don't waste it. Don't postpone it. Don't save it for later. Live it now. Life is short. Not in theory. Not one day. No. You don't control how long you live, but you control how deeply you live. When your final moment comes, and it will, let it meet someone who truly lived. No, I wish I had. No, I should have. No, if only. Just peace. Live in a way that your last breath feels complete. This is your life. Short, precious, happening right now. Don't waste it. See you at the top.